Morning Grind with Pork Rinds.
Welcome to the show.
Cutting it close right here on a Monday morning. Dave Garner with you right here on the Morning Rant. Hey, thanks for being with us. A great weekend for sports. I'm here with the man himself, Big John Davis, joining us right here live on the program. Again, the Morning Rant Monday through Friday as we begin another week right here on the show. And we appreciate you guys listening in. As always, for those that didn't know, I'm going to let you in. I'm going to be transparent this morning. I literally sat in the seat. I had so much going on this morning. I literally sat down in the seat as the intro to the show was rolling. That's how close I was cutting it this morning right here on a Monday morning quarterback edition of the show. John, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great. You were worrying me.
Yeah.
I was afraid I was going to have to take over, and I just wasn't ready for that.
Oh, man, I was going to say, hey, you were about 20 seconds away from maybe having to at least do that here a little bit. So we've got a lot of stuff we're going to dive into over this first hour of the week, if you will. And, a lot of Masters talk, a lot of Braves talk, of course, some different notes. And we're going to dive into NFL. Obviously, we're here with Big John Davis, former Buffalo Bill, two-time Georgia Tech All-American, and a proud Gilmer High alum. And so, of course, we're going to talk football as well. We've got some different NFL notes, some things that we touched on a little bit last week right here. But a great kickoff to the week this morning as we talk about everything going on right here. Again, the Big John Bold Take. A lot of things coming up here in this next 60 minutes as we bring you up to speed and lead you right into Chuck Oliver right at 11 o'clock. Again, the king of college football with Southern Sports Today coming up at 11 o'clock. But, John, man, a big weekend, of course. Masters, obviously, the theme there. And I've got a confession to make. I have not had time. Maybe you have. But I have not had enough time to do the math yet on our little pool there because I was going to do it last night and got caught up doing some things before the work week. So, and this morning, had sales meetings, had a couple different things going on there that brought me right up until 10 o'clock. And so, admittedly, I haven't had a chance yet to figure out who won between all of the hosts here of the program. But we all kind of picked a lot of the same guys. And, man, what was the biggest thing that jumped out to you as we get going this morning?
I guess going from a 36-hole, 6-shot lead down to making it a fun weekend.
Yeah.
Very surprised that Roy, I don't know if he let his guard down or if he was just enjoying it a little bit too much, but It turns out the last 9 holes, he turned it around, and I'm at the age now to where I'm never going to root for anybody to lose anymore, but
right.
I was not rooting for him to win. I'm not a big Rory fan, but,
right.
Scottie Scheffler did everything he needed to do to try to get back up there, but his putter once again let him down.
Yeah.
And I did do my scores just before we got online, and I was 37 under.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then, of course, my winner, DeChambeau, was the only one that I picked that didn't even make the cut.
Yeah.
And so that hurt me.
I think, looking down, and I've got all of our picks right here, so we'll just have to do some math here. But I think pretty much everyone, all 4 of us, again, Big John, my co-host, myself, and then the other 2 co-hosts of the program, Billy Dowd and of course, Will Cooper, we all had DeChambeau. So, I mean, everybody had at least one that didn't make the cut. And, I want to talk about that because he was obviously one of the projected leaders coming in to the event there. Just what a disastrous, couple of days. Yeah. I can't even say a whole 4 days because he didn't make the weekend cut. But just did not get good iron play. We talked about it a little bit over the weekend with some friends and my son and I. We actually went to a driving range yesterday and kind of hit some golf balls. He's trying to learn how to play the game. I haven't swung a club in a long time, but we were talking about, and the thing that I told him was, you can get off the tee, a 400-yard drive, but if your irons aren't working, that's what you're going to be hitting most of the time is those irons. And so, you got to focus on that mid game. You got to focus on that short game a little bit. And that caught up to Bryson.
Well, and you're exactly right. I mean, he can drive at 400 yards anytime you want, but his short game was horrible.
Yeah.
And he wasn't putting.
Right.
And, obviously, I picked him to win at 15 under. The winner came in at 12, and I guess I didn't watch the last couple of holes because I knew that Roy had won it. and bogeyed on the 17th hole. But dude, if you can't putt there, then it's disastrous for you. And like I said, and I think it's the same way. You'll see that way with all the other majors, is that you've got these guys that can drive, 350, 375. But I think Roy only hit 2 par 5s in the fairway. The whole week. And so he was really saving himself and making birdies and pars out of the pine straw and stuff like that. So which he can do, and he's got the length to do it as well. But when he needed those drives in the fairway on the par 5s, the last 9 holes, he came through. But DeChambeau is never. I'm a huge fan of his, but he's never going to win consistently until he does exactly what you said. Hold back on the driver, which he's not going to. But his short game, and sometimes he hits it so far, he's in between clubs going into the green. So it's kind of it's pretty in one way, but then it's ugly, the last 2 or 3 shots.
It is. And to your point about Rory, I mean, he didn't hit a fairway on a par 5 really all weekend, I think until the very end of the tournament on Sunday. And but to your point, he was able to salvage a lot of those holes and made it interesting on 18 yesterday. It looked like, a double bogey would have put him in a lead or a tie, of course, with Scottie Scheffler. And what a round 2, what a weekend by Scottie Scheffler, by the way, is he was 12 back and finishes within a stroke of the lead. The first golfer since 1942, I believe, that played a bogeyless weekend. So did not have a bogey on Saturday or Sunday, which is truly remarkable, and that's why he was able to kind of propel. There were some guys that fell off. Cam Young, bless his heart, just couldn't hit a putt, when he needed to, but he still finished amongst the leaders there. He was a guy I liked going in. Some other guys there, Justin Reed, of course, kind of does what he does, another late surge there. And, the crazy thing is, Rory, 6-stroke lead going into the weekend, was actually 3 strokes down at one point off the lead and then was able to come back. So, it's all about consistency. It's mental just as much as it is anything at the Masters. And so credit Rory, like him or not or what have you, was able to kind of, to stay consistent. And other guys would kind of fall off, but he kept that game.
Well, and then also with Scottie Scheffler, look how many putts he missed the last 2 days. He had some very good looks, and the putter just wasn't working for him. And then he would sink one and say, okay, he's getting in that rhythm. And then all of a sudden he'd have an 8 or 9 footer and miss it. So and those greens got a lot crispier as the weekend went along.
It did. And even he said that.
And then I heard a quote from one of the players on the announcers and stuff, which I really wasn't happy with, especially the first 2 days. They said a game is a game. Golf is a game of 6 inches, and they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" He says, "It's between here."
It's between the ears. No doubt.
Exactly, and you see, look. To even get to play in the Masters is great, but you can kind of tell how the cream rises to the top. And then, Cam Young, I've never seen anybody so steady in his life, especially on Saturday. And, of course, he goes in and sits in the Butler cabin, and I'm like, that could be a jinx right there. But the golfers that we picked, we pretty much, except for Fleetwood finished even. And then Rahm and Bryson hurt me with his total score of 7 over. But, it's McIlroy won. You got to give it to him. He came through in the last 9 holes.
Only the 4th golfer to win back-to-back. Of course, they were talking about that, obviously, with Jack Nicklaus, Nick Faldo. Of course, Tiger Woods was the last one to do it back in 01-02, and now Rory McIlroy etching his name into history there a little bit. Really the only unique, and I'm looking down through our picks because I do have them here in front of me, the only real I guess the only golfer that like one person picked that no one else did. I think Billy D picked Patrick Reed, the 2018 champ, who had a pretty decent round there, I think. And so again, other than that, we pretty much had a lot of the same guys. There wasn't one particular golfer that only one of us picked. I mean, there was overlap basically with all four of us. But yeah, we'll sort it out. We'll kind of figure it out here a little bit and kind of name that official milkshake winner right here on the Morning Rant. Hey, thanks for being with us right here again on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia. Visit us on social media, the Sports Pigs on Facebook, our show, The Morning Rants, on Instagram. You can also watch full video episodes daily on YouTube, and the podcast version of the show, The Morning Rant, also on sportspigradio.com and wherever you listen to your favorite daily podcast on both Apple and Android platforms. Again, you can catch me on Twitter at DaveGarner777. He's at JohnDavis_65. Again, you can interact with us on social media and online as well. A lot of other things to get to as well. Of course, we're talking about the Masters. It was a great weekend. No rain, no bad weather. It was kind of a carbon copy from, basically from Thursday all the way through yesterday's closing round there. A lot of history being made, a lot of different things to talk about. We were talking about it a little bit on Friday, too, because it was also a big weekend for, private jets. Again, the Masters has become the biggest private jet event. And then, of course, all the different memes that came out, the guy wearing the egg salad hats over and over every day. Of course, the Masters famous for their egg salad sandwiches and their pimento cheese sandwiches. Yeah. So it was great to see, though, a lot of things play out there. Not too much Tiger Woods talk at all, which was kind of nice and respect. Excuse me, certainly respectful for him. But all in all, a good day. And I'm like you, man. The CBS broadcast on Saturday and Sunday was nice.
Yeah, it was. But I tell you what, Thursday and Friday was horrible. I think you and I were texting back and forward. They weren't giving the live golfers any love.
Right, yeah.
Which, you had 5 or 6, I think, made the cut. And, it's, Brand DeChambeau has got to get over that. Right, it's live golf is here to stay, and it's good for the game. They're bringing golf worldwide. And for Brandy to keep, harping and saying bad things about him, I think it's ridiculous. And but yeah, the coverage on Thursday and Friday was just absolutely horrible. They concentrated on about 6 golfers, and you couldn't see anybody else. And I think I told you I finally had to change it to Hulu, just so I could see other golfers through Amen Corner and 15 and 16 and stuff like that.
Well, I tell you that a tradition unlike any other, a phrase coined by Jim Nantz. But to be honest with you, the broadcast to me is just as much a tradition of the Masters as the event itself. CBS, I think, always does a great job really jumping around, providing a lot of great coverage there over the weekend. Hey, the 90th edition of the Masters is now in the books as we turn the page to the next big events. The NFL Draft coming up here in just a couple of short weeks. Kentucky Derby, you name it, man. Still plenty of things on the horizon. Hey, we're going to take our first time out. When we come back, we'll talk about some Braves and a little bit of Frozen 4 action for you. National Championship on the ice. All that much more straight ahead on this edition of the Morning Rant, your Monday morning quarterback edition on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Make your home's air healthier. Green Heating and Cooling can help by installing a Bryant Evolution air purifier just for you. Using Captures and Kills technology, this highly advanced MERV 15 filter captures many select airborne pathogens. It also helps improve indoor air quality for both asthma and allergy sufferers by filtering air impurities like dust, pollen, and pet dander. Call to schedule an evaluation. Green Heating and Cooling, your top Bryant authorized dealer, whatever it takes.
Big opinions of the big games from the big mouths.
Man, I think it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's the Morning Rant on WPGY, the Sports Pig, North Georgia's home for ESPN Radio.
Sit down.
Back here on a Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. Again, brought to you by your friends at Foundation Wealth. over in Dalton. Hey, speaking of, we're going to be broadcasting live on Friday from Foundation Wealth. Again, Joel Hudson, Eric Dakota, the team over there, your certified financial planners in North Georgia, your team at Foundation Wealth Management over in Dalton. We're going to talk a little bit more about the live remote a little bit later on here, but chopping it up with my man, Big John Davis, here on a Monday. Atlanta Hawks, of course, headed to the postseason. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Really throughout the week, grabbing that 6th seed there. Of course, a big weekend coming up in the world of entertainment with WrestleMania, NASCAR race, getting the Food City 500 yesterday, and a race you can hear right here on your North Georgia home of Cup Racing. And we'll mention that in a few minutes and talk a little bit more about NASCAR as well. Of course, a big parade on Friday in Murray County, the Parade of Champions, honoring the state championship high school girls basketball teams over there, plural, because a couple of rec teams as well. So a lot of things going on this week, and so we're excited to bring it to you. Another one of those unique, before we jump into Braves, one of those unique things that happened over the weekend was the national championship for hockey. And, you know, we try to sprinkle in a little bit of everything around here, but I know you were kind of paying attention to that a little bit.
Well, you know, I turned the TV on and I thought, you know, I want to give it a watch. And Denver has won 11 championships, and I think 3 of the last 5. But the thing that caught my eye most importantly was the pure raw emotion of those two teams after the game was over. Yeah. And you know, it just goes to show you how much these guys put into it. What is it? The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat.
Yeah.
You know, you look at the Denver goalie is a freshman, and he's never lost a game.
Right.
And then you look at the goalie for Wisconsin, and you just, man, your heart breaks for him. It was a great game, 2-1, and I don't know, it's just one of those that I love to watch, you know, outside of football. And I'm not a huge hockey fan. But if it's dealing with college, then I'm a little bit more interested in it. And the third period was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. You got to get behind your student athletes, and it's always fun. I love the way they've branded it as the instead of the Final Four, because it kind of runs a little bit in conjunction with the, you know, the men's and women's, you know, basketball bracket. So they call it the Frozen Four. It's kind of a neat branding thing. And then, of course, the national championship as well. Yeah, you know, hockey is really – and even in the South, I think with all the buzz being made about Atlanta potentially getting another franchise, I think people are maybe starting to pay attention to it a little bit more in the South. You know, I know that obviously we're you know, the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs kind of run parallel to each other, and the championships are, you know, basically the same time frame there. So, again, we're getting into that time of year people start paying attention to the postseasons for those respective sports there. So, yeah, man, job well done over the weekend.
Yeah, and you know, Atlanta needs a hockey team, and I think we've talked about this before. The problem is that it's going to draw usually more away teams than it is Atlanta teams, if you know what I mean, because, you know, Atlanta obviously has so many people here. Yep. A buddy of mine and I used to have tickets when the Thrashers were in town.
Oh, yeah.
We'd go see whether it was Buffalo, Pittsburgh, New York. I mean, it'd be 50-50. And, you know, and I can understand how that gets frustrating for the home team. Right. But, I mean, Atlanta needs a team.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they would really get behind it this time.
Well, and I think that, to your point, you've got such a hodgepodge. It's really a melting pot of fan bases in Atlanta now. And so you're right. You're going to have a lot of different people show up from different fan bases. But I also think you have a lot of people here that would absolutely embrace Atlanta enough, because we saw with the Thrashers. I mean, and I've always said this. I mean, the Thrashers didn't not make it because of lack of support. I mean, it was a kind of a dysfunctional ownership group, you know, that couldn't get along, and they ended up selling the team off. So I think with the right ownership, which it does look like we would have, you know, some folks in place that obviously would be good for that, at least from the surface anyway. I think that hockey would definitely survive if it were brought here, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Hey, the Atlanta Braves now, as we kind of shift gears for just a moment, the only team now officially left in Major League Baseball that has not lost a series this year. Congratulations to our Braves. Again, the Sports Big is your new North Georgia home for the Atlanta Braves, and so we carried most all the games. Now, yesterday, of course, we had NASCAR on right here, and so, again, we carry the Cup races on Sundays, but throughout the rest of the week, Braves games here and over on our sister station, 101.1 The Pulse. But, yeah, man, you got to love it. They threw a bullpen game Saturday out of necessity, but Chris Sale comes back, shook off a bad start in his last outing after two superb performances the first two times out. It looked like it was going to start a little rough. I mean, that first inning there, Cleveland gets two guys on, one out into scoring position, but Sale able to get out of that first inning, and then after that he pretty much just cruised, only allowed one earned run. The Braves bats, meanwhile, slugging out 13 runs, and they only hit one home run. So again, the difference I think so far for this Braves team is they are getting, kind of like you and I talked about, some timely hits. They're kind of learning to move guys around a little bit and score, big piles of runs without having to depend strictly on the long ball to do it.
And as we said before, the long ball is going to come. I don't think there's a question in that. But I've always been a big believer, and I was talking to my buddy Warren the other day. There's just nothing like just moving the runners. Getting a single here, double here. Guy might get an error, something like that, get a couple of walks. But no, they're playing. I think right now they're playing about as good as they have in a while. It's all about pitching. And again, it's like you said, chicks love the long ball. Yeah. But I'm perfectly happy with the way they're doing it now.
Yeah, if they're putting up 13 runs, I'm good with that, no matter how it comes, right?
Yeah, they're doing something right.
Yeah. Hey, we mentioned last week on the program here, too, and we also put a Facebook post up as well. A lot of people in the Atlanta world are again, paying their respects to longtime Atlanta sports personality, Bach, who, of course, was really one of the original TV and radio guys in Atlanta, known as the Dean of Atlanta sports. I had the opportunity to work with him a couple times back during the old GPB days, calling some state football championships and everything. But I kind of wanted to talk about something else too that you brought up, and that was Kirk Gibson, another guy. As we kind of stay with baseball, and we're talking about the Braves and everything, but I guess it has been revealed, he has Parkinson's and going on there. Kirk Gibson, obviously one of the all-time greats, had some memorable moments throughout his career there. But again, we like to report on different things. You and I, we talked about Steve McMichael last week, that had passed away and everything. So again, just another kind of unfortunate situation there.
Yeah, watch it. One quick story about Bach. He used to come to a little pub right down the road from where I am, and we would sit there and talk. He had his radio show for as long as that I remember, and then I think he got in such bad health he couldn't come out anymore. But you talk about a character. He was almost the shock jock of the sports world. Yeah, and he didn't hold back. He let you know exactly how he felt. And we weren't the best of friends because he just, he kind of needled me a little bit when I played at Tech, and which I thought was unfair. But that's who Bo is, and we're sad to see him go, and it's praying for his family and stuff. But getting back to Kirk. Kirk's one of those guys that I'm a huge fan of back during that time, and I watched on ESPN. Again, I might have texted you about it, but. Has Parkinson's disease. Yeah. He built a center free of charge up in the Detroit area that's really helping people out. And, it's very touching piece on TV. And so it made me think about, this morning before I came on, I went in, because of the CTEs, especially with football players and stuff. Oh, yeah. And I briefly wrote down a couple of things. Parkinson's disease amongst the football players are 3 times higher than the general public. Wow. And ALS is 4 times as higher. Yeah. Now, they're trying to figure out where CTE lands in this whole thing.
It fits in there,
So I didn't get in depth with the study, but we usually get papers sent to us through the NFL retired players, and once I get some of that, we can talk about it a little bit more. Sure. But, it's very prevalent right now, and obviously the high speed players are impacted more than somebody like myself. You know, I might be hitting a guy 60, 70 times a game, but I'm not hitting them at 10, 15, 20 yards.
Right.
You know, getting a run in like the linebackers are.
Sure.
And, you know, and I'll tell you this again, Dave, and if we talked about it, tell me to be quiet, but I went up, the last time I went up to Buffalo to play in Jim Kelly's golf tournament, had 4 guys that didn't even recognize me.
Wow.
Had 4 teammates.
And
those were teammates that played in all 4 Super Bowls, and it just broke my heart, you know, and I was just like, and then I just got an update that there's 2 more that are declining, and it's just like,
it's very fortunate,
and they are all high speed guys. You know, there's none of the offensive linemen or defensive linemen. The linebackers, running backs, and wide receivers. And I was telling my wife a couple of years ago, and one of my buddies up there, it almost makes me not want to go because, you know, I went through a 3 or 4 year period where I wasn't in the best of shape, you know, injury wise, before I got my 2 new knees and my shoulders and back and everything. And I'm like, dude, I'm in pretty good shape. Compared to some of these guys.
So, you're right.
So I'm looking forward to getting back up there in August and hopefully get to see some of those guys if they can still, you know, come and play.
Well, there's definitely something to it, and it's very unfortunate. We're starting to see more and more of that, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, the CTE stuff. Parkinson's, obviously, a lot of different things going on right now with a lot of folks. I mean, you and I both know people, obviously, that have that. And so, again, it's a very unfortunate story about Kirk Gibson there, of course, hitting that iconic home run in the World Series for the Dodgers, even though it was for the Dodgers.
He should be in the Hall of Fame just for that.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, man, they ought to have a poster of that hanging up somewhere with him doing the iconic, you know, celebrate, you know, the humble celebration there around the bags there. But again, Kirk Gibson right there, again, one of the all-time greats. Hey, we're up against our second break. We're going to keep the conversation going, but just in a different direction. We got the NFL Draft and the Department of Justice coming down on the NFL, launching an investigation about all those streaming services, that ongoing discussion that we've been talking about right here on the Morning Rant. We're the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
When you get hurt from an accident, it can feel like no one is listening to you. The insurance company talks over you. The bills keep coming. It's like the pain and inconvenience doesn't even matter to them. But your story does matter, and here at Geiger Legal, we will make sure your story is heard loud and clear. My name is Casey Geiger, and my firm stands up for people who have been wronged through someone else's negligence. Let us tell your story. Let us get the justice you deserve, and let's start today.
Call Geiger Legal Group at 833-HELP-GLG. That's 833-HELP-GLG, and let us tell your story today.
We bring the heat. You bring the trash talk.
Come on, man. Are you serious?
It's the Morning Rant, live on the Sports Pig app and sportspigradio.com.
Back here on a Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. Dave Garner with you inside here with Big John Davis until 11 o'clock this morning. Again, follow us on social media. Again, we are the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia right here on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com. A big NASCAR race yesterday. They were back to action at the Food City 500 in Bristol, and it was Ty Gibbs winning his first race of the year. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, man, has been tearing it up this year. He's fourth, and Chase Briscoe, the rounding out the top 5 there yesterday. Up in Bristol, man, it's always a hot ticket, still a hot ticket. Talladega's coming up, man. That's my personal favorite here in the next couple of weeks there. So, again, a lot of things going on in the world of NASCAR, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Hey, NFL Draft coming up here in a couple of weeks, and Big John, I know you and I were talking about it last week, talking about some of the tech guys like Hayes King, breaking it down. Looks like he's going to have a tryout, or not a tryout, but a workout with the Atlanta Falcons. But again, as we near the draft, man, your thoughts as we start climbing closer and closer.
Well, we got 11 days to go, and I think it's going to be pretty quiet. I did hear that the Bills are trying to finagle some type of a trade, whether it's up or just to get more picks and stuff, so you never really know what's going to happen there.
Right.
But I did get some news. I watched the John Gruden, who I'm a big fan of John Gruden's quarterback. I think it's Quarterback Club or something like that.
I love it, yeah.
And he had Haynes King on there, and he basically said, man, why are you going so low? And he says, dude, it's not my problem. He said, it's the team's problems.
Yeah.
You know, I've done everything that I can do. And I admittedly, I think I had told you, I never thought that he had the arm strength to get the ball downfield. I really didn't. Yeah. But I mean, he's shut me up in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah,
because you know, and he is probably one of the only dual threat quarterbacks in the draft this year, rushing for 36 touchdowns. I think over the last 3 years, had 15 last year. And he rarely turns the ball over. He's very smart. He comes from a family of football coaches.
Right.
And so, you know, he's a smart kid, and I wish him the best. I think somebody's going to get a very, very good quarterback and a great leader. And then my boy, I talked to Big Red, Keelan Rutledge.
Keelan Rutledge, baby.
last week, and they've got him moved up to maybe late first round, a top 45 pick.
Okay.
And I went in and I was looking at some notes, and the thing that impressed everybody, one is that he's mean, and you can just look at him.
You got to have the nasty guys up front like that, right?
You have to. And I asked him, I said, you know, because we've been kind of talking a little bit. He's a great kid, and he can play the left guard, center, and right guard, you know, which is in the NFL, you have to, unless you're a pure left tackle or right tackle, you pretty much got to play everything because, you know, you're only dressing 7 or 8 during the game.
Right.
And so somebody gets hurt, like happened with us, you know, in 93, you know, I had to step in and start at center for 3 games.
You got to be a swing player.
Fortunately, Kent came back and you know, we went back to our normal offensive line. But I'm happy for Keelan. I think he's going to be a he could last in the NFL. I think he's one of those guys that can put a really good career together.
Right.
Good old country boy, and I think he said he had a great meeting up in Buffalo.
Right.
And I told him he needed to go to my old stomping grounds, the Big Tree Inn, and have a beer and some wings. But
I love
he
it.
said he couldn't make it, but he went to, as you know, he went to the Anchor Bar.
Right.
And
there you go.
Like, Keelan. I said, dude, I've got 15 places better than the Anchor Bar. Not putting the Anchor Bar down.
Right.
I'm just saying I've got some good places, and So I think Tech's going to, you know, have a. I think the only first round draft pick for an offensive lineman that we've ever had was Kent Hill.
I was going to say,
back in
Kent Hill,
77 or 78, I believe. And then we've had some in the 3 to 4 range, 5 range. But so no, this is exciting for everybody, and I really can't wait to see who picks Haynes up because I'm going to be excited to see him make a team.
He could definitely be a sleeper guy that, you know, could be thrust into action and make a name for himself. You know, definitely.
Right.
I think that
he's not going to hurt you. He's not going to hurt you.
Exactly. Big Red kind of reminds me a little bit of. You remember Cody Mock, you know, the big that's he's in the league now. He came out of North Dakota State, I think. You know, the big guy, just a big farm boy there, crazy hair, you know, and sometimes you got to have guys like that are willing to get dirty in the trenches. I remember some of those old, you know, Atlanta Falcon offensive lines with Harvey Dahl and some of those guys that were rated like the dirtiest players, you know, in the NFL. But, you know, I mean, if they're playing on your team, man, you love them, you know. If you're playing against them, you hate them. But
well, and everybody knows we don't have all of our screws aren't tightened all the way, and you know, it's just a matter.
Just the way you're wired.
And, you know, I was one of those guys that never really was very demonstrative out on the field. I didn't do a lot of talking because, like I said, you know, I'm trying to get every bit of oxygen that I can get in my body. But if you do something bad to me, or if you do something bad to my teammate, then you know I'm coming after you. And I'll give you one example. We were playing the Chicago Bears in Buffalo, and Mike Singletary, Thurman ran the ball behind us, and he was looking up into the sky. I don't know how he got turned over. Well, Mike Singletary punched him, you know where.
Oh, wow.
Kent Hull and I went to him, and Howard Ballard, who big house is 6'7", 360 pounds, and we looked at Mike and we said, Mike, do it one more time. I said, I promise you won't finish the game. And,
wow.
And of course, he's like, well, I'm Mike Singletary. And I said, I don't give a damn who you are.
Right, yeah.
I said, you touch Thurman Thomas like that again, we're going to come after you.
I love it.
And so I think Keelan's going to be one of those guys. He's going to protect his turf, and he's going to protect his players.
Well, that's what you got to have. And, there were times, years ago, speaking of the Falcons and keeping it closer to home, where, one of the biggest alarming things was, in a game when I think Matt Ryan had gotten leveled, by a player, and none of the offensive linemen went in and stood up, for the quarterback. And that was back during the Mike Smith days. And they brought that into training camp the next year and said, look, guys, 15-yard penalty or not, you gotta stand up for your quarterback. Yeah. And, speaking of offensive line, obviously Caleb McGarry retiring, so the Falcons did go out and get, Anton Taylor, Jawan Taylor, from the Chiefs to kind of help maybe fill that void there at tackle. But, you got – to me, I love teams that build from the inside out because you got to – to me, you got to start in the trenches. I know there's some philosophies where you build from the back end of a defense forward and all that kind of stuff like Dan Quinn used to do, but I really like building those trenches on both sides of the ball.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, Dave, when you see the Super Bowl or the last 4 teams or maybe 6 teams, they all have a great rushing offense, and they all have a great rushing defense,
right?
And and stopping the run and running the ball is what it's all about. You look at Bill Belichick, that's what he built. You look at Bill Parcells, that's what he built. Yeah. Our offensive line was a little bit different because the offense that we ran, we could run or pass with the same formations every play. So it was very seldom did we ever line up with 2 tight ends and just play smash mouth because we were always, Jim did such a great job of keeping the defensive personnel on their heels because they didn't know if we were going to run or pass the ball.
Right.
And 90% of the time we would never even get down in our stance. We'd go from a 2-point stance. Well, they didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
And we were successful at it. We were always top 5, top 6 rushing just about every year. And so, so you got, I'm a firm believer, like you said, of building from the inside out.
Yeah.
And then I think the next group would be your defensive backs. I think that's, high priority.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The big money positions right there, man. Dion came in the league and kind of changed the corner spot there a little bit to those big money positions, and then offensive tackle kind of became you gotta protect your investment because your quarterback's always going to be your most expensive player typically on a team. So you got to find the right guy to protect the blind side.
And I'll tell you this: one of the things that started about the time we were playing and getting close to retiring is that they would have their strong safeties would basically be a linebacker.
Right.
They had the Ed Reeds, they had the Steve Atwaters.
Yeah, kind of created a hybrid kind of player that you see now.
Denver was always a hard team for us to play because with our personnel, they didn't care. They would get rid of one guy and put Steve Atwater. Well, Steve Atwater.
I was going to say Steve Atwater was
And let me tell you something. I did not like playing against him. It was hard.
I remember the old video of Steve Atwater laying out Christian Okoye, on a 4th down play. They're out there, the safety coming up, taking on the Nigerian Nightmare right in the hole there. And so, again, you got to appreciate those safeties that can come up and lay a lick. And that, that's why you have the Legion of Boom and some of those nicknames there from those guys that were so physical over the years. Yeah, the draft, it'll be interesting to see the different strategies that play out. And by the way, we're talking about Atlanta being a melting pot of fans. I met yet another Buffalo Bill fan the other day, a lady that works for, one of our clients there and moved down here recently, her and her husband, in the last couple of years from the Buffalo area. And so I was telling her she didn't know about the Anchor Bar in Kennesaw, but we're talking about there's another place or two that she hangs out. I think there's several like Bill's bars, and hangout spots around Atlanta, as there are for a lot of other fan bases too. But yeah, man, we're talking about, the Bills are one of those fan bases that is well represented even here in Atlanta. So,
and it's like I said before, it seems like when the playoffs come out, you're either going to see the Bills or Pittsburgh.
Right.
There's got to be Pittsburgh fans in every city.
I think she said her husband was a Steelers fan. So, you're right.
I frankly get sick of it. I've got a good friend who grew up in Pittsburgh, and Jerry, and we coached together in middle school, and he's a rabid Pittsburgh fan. But I tell you what, when the playoffs and football comes around, you'll see a lot of Steelers. But, we've got probably around our house, we probably got 4 locations that I can get to in 15 minutes.
Wow.
And,
okay.
And sometimes I get out there and go see them and everything. And but Anchor Bar is the one I usually try to go to because my agent goes there, and I've gotten to know a couple of those people up there.
Yeah. They're always they're great. There's a lot of good hangout places. Of course, I like the Packers too. There's a Packer hangout there in Woodstock. So if you're a fan of another team, outside of Atlanta, that's the good thing. There's always hangout spots. I know that soccer has a lot of hangout places like that, depending on who you cheer for, even at a worldwide level. So, a lot of fandom. Atlanta, definitely a good sports town, especially for other fan bases. I know they claim that a lot of Atlanta fans are fair weather, and I think that's probably fair in some respects, certainly. But, again, folks getting around these Atlanta Hawks, by the way, too. Again, the Hawks opening up the playoffs against the Knicks. They did fall to the 6th seed. They fell yesterday to the Heat, so that pushed them back as they lost the tiebreak with Toronto. So the Hawks will open up against the Knicks. I think a lot of people felt like that might be their more favorable matchup, though, anyway. So, again, we'll see what happens right there. But, things going on all around Atlanta. And the Braves also going at it in action as they open up a 3-game home set tonight against the Florida Marlins. Hey, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, more football talk on the other side of this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. We're here on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia. That's the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Financial scams are on the rise, and with AI, they're getting more and more sophisticated every day. If someone pressures you to act quickly, ask for secrecy, or request payment through gift cards, wire transfers, or cryptocurrency, stop. Legitimate financial professionals don't rush you or demand unusual payment methods. Before you send money or share personal information, slow down and verify. Protect your future. When in doubt, ask questions.
If you're suspicious of a scam, call the team at Foundation Wealth today at 706-278-0214.
911, what's your emergency?
Bold takes from the big man himself. It's Big John's Bold Take of the Week, only on the Morning Rant.
Back here on a Monday morning quarterback segment right here. Big John's always got bold takes, so we like to roll the bold take open every once in a while as we bring it back in here on a Monday morning. Again, the Masters wrapping up over the weekend. Rory McIlroy making history is a repeat winner. Just the 4th time that's happened, of course, in Masters history, so we're chopping that up this morning with Big John Davis. A lot of NFL talk, of course, Hawks, Braves, you name it. High school sports, we try to cover it all right here in the short amount of time that we have each and every weekday, 10 to 11 right here on the Sports Pig, WPGY. Again, you can check us out on social media, Sports Pig on Facebook, The Morning Rant on Instagram, and also full video episodes downloaded daily on YouTube. Speaking of golf, the John Davis Classic, June the 3rd. You got the official date for it out there. So, again, folks out there listening, put that on your calendar, man. You've been doing this for a long time now. Always a great event.
Well, I think that's one of the first times I think you and I ever met.
Yes,
you came in
it was.
And covered it for the ETC. But no, we're heading into our 34th year. Gina Penley and her team do a fantastic job. Gina's been with me ever since the inception of it. The story goes that Hester and I wanted to give back to the community, and that's one of the things they needed was a hospice. And,
right. Yep.
We wanted it to be nonprofit because there are a lot of for-profit hospices out there. And, I kind of set some, not rules, so to speak, but I wanted to make sure that the money raised went 100% to the patients.
Yeah.
Of course, as Gina tells me every year, the rules and regulations with hospice change every year. So, but I think last year we went over the 1.1 million mark.
Wow.
We
awesome.
usually raise anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 a year, which is a pretty good tournament for North
Yeah,
Georgia.
absolutely.
And so we're excited. I'm getting more of my Tech teammates to come up there.
Sure.
And it's one of those days to where we get to see a lot of my LJ friends,
Yeah.
that I might not get to see, during the year.
Right.
But it's always a great time. Bentry does a fantastic job with it. And like I said, Gina does a wonderful job. And I kid her because I tell her it kind of runs itself now, but she still has to do a lot of work to put everything together. And she just continues to make it better and better.
Yeah, Gina's awesome. Always done a great job with the golf tournament and with the Georgia Mountains Hospice. Again, June the 3rd at Bentry in Pickens County. And we're going to try to piggyback off that event as well. So we'll be there live broadcasting for the tournament there. And we'll talk about that certainly as we get a lot closer to it. Hey, we were talking about some other things last week, and I had mentioned something to Will Cooper on Friday about the whole Hunter Biden challenging the Trump sons in a cage match. Of course, we're up against WrestleMania this week. Obviously, WrestleMania this weekend, the big 2-day event. And you and I even talked about wrestling and last week and whether or not the thought ever even crossed your mind about wrestling. And you said, absolutely not. But what about jumping in a cage with Hunter Biden or any of those guys, man? I mean, like, what? I can't imagine, you would think he would want to stay out of the news at this point.
Well, the poor guy, what is he, $15 million in debt, can't pay his lawyers, can't pay child support.
Oh,
you talk about a train wreck.
Yeah.
I'm hoping somebody will step up to the plate and say, yeah, man, I'm in.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take one of the Trump.
I know it's not going to be one of the Trump boys.
No, it ain't ever going to happen.
Do that.
Yeah.
They're not in dire need of anything.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, that's a train wreck just waiting to go off rail at any time.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
He's a mess.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hey, this is the fastest 1 hour in sports talk radio. When you're the fastest hour, you talk about a little of everything and spread it out there. So, again, we appreciate you guys being with us right here on a Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant, brought to you by our friends at Foundation Wealth in Dalton. I did want to touch on real quick, and we've talked about it and kind of beat it into the ground, but the whole thing about the streaming services and all that stuff with the NFL and other leagues as well, trying to push the fans to see how much money they'll actually spend. I mean, how far are fans willing to go? And the NFL has gotten to the point now, as you and I have long talked about here on this program since we started over a month ago, the Department of Justice has indeed stepped in and launched an investigation against the NFL as far as just unfair practices towards consumers and things like that. So there's definitely now a little bit of meat behind this story, and it looks like it is going to take a direction.
Yeah, and I haven't read up on that, but as we've talked before, it's all about greed. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. Roger Goodell's going to try to squeeze every bit of blood he can out of that turnip, and it's just, and I think I told you a couple of years ago, I bought into the YouTube TV package.
Yep.
They had a special for the retired players, and I went and did it, and then I was just like, you know what, I'm not doing this again.
Right. Yeah.
Look, as much as I love the Bills, I can find them on anywhere in the area.
Yeah.
But I won't. And I'll be honest with you again. When they could do prime games, I don't even know if there's a game on because I'm not going to watch it.
Right.
When they do that, so as it goes back to Sunday at 1:00.
Yeah.
ABC, NBC, CBS.
Fox,
and let's just get back to the old days. And that. It's not going to happen anymore because and Goodell's going to see he's going to see how much he can make.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just one of those
push
things.
It as much as he can.
Absolutely. Yep. To what extent?
And by the way, Trump is not a big Goodell fan or the NFL just because of his old USFL days.
Right. Because he wanted to buy a franchise and they wouldn't let. Yeah.
They wouldn't let him, and then the USFL went bankrupt, and the NFL didn't help him out any. So he's got a little bit of a grudge against the NFL, even though Goodell wasn't around at the time. Trump's still going to go after him.
It's carried over a little bit. Yeah, no doubt about that. Hey,
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go for it, man.
I didn't write it down on my paper, and I forgot to tell you, but I got to give a little love to my Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets baseball team.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I was going to bring that up, yeah.
And I tell you what, they played Florida State, the number 3 against the number 5. And I was kidding my buddy. I've got a good friend of mine, John Michaelides, who he and his wife went to FSU.
Okay, bless their
heart. So we were kind of bantering back and forth. And I'm like, John, dude, I turned the TV on to try to find him on Saturday, and I said, they called it after 7 innings. I said, what the hell's up with that? And of course, it takes him a while to text me back.
I love it, man. I love it, yeah.
But he and Chris went over to Dublin with Hester and I to watch Tech and Florida State play.
Right.
And we had a great time. And so we've known them for forever, it seems like, and we love to banter back and forth.
I bet you had a little bit better time, though, than over in Ireland.
It was,
right?
they had to leave a day early, but I told him, I said, John, listen, I was doing some research on Florida State. I said, that they were an all-girls school in 1975.
Right, yeah,
I said,
exactly.
What's up with that? And, so anytime I get a chance to needle him a little bit, I'd love to take a chance. And he comes right back at me. So
I'm sure. Burt Reynolds, that's what I think of. Burt Reynolds, FSU there. Yeah,
Lee Corso.
Lee Corso, yeah. He was there for a little while too. Yeah, absolutely. So again, I've never been a fan of FSU, honestly. So that one's one of those there. But hey, Clemson, either one, so but hey, we'll talk about them all right here. Hey, speaking of, great segue into the final few minutes that we have right here remaining. Spring football practice. Obviously, Alabama had their spring game over the weekend. Both Georgia and Georgia Tech have their spring games this weekend. A lot of other, programs around the country wrapping up as well. So going into the final week, as you're here in spring practice, and you've got your spring game going on, of course, on Saturday. I mean, what are you looking for? And I guess specifically because you've spent some time with Coach Key in Georgia Tech, but as a coach in general, I'm like, what are you looking for here in this final week, and what do you hope to get out of the spring scrimmage, really?
No injuries.
That's
for one. And it's going to be interesting because I couldn't go to the spring game last year, so I don't know how Brent actually runs his games. I know it's all scripted and everything, but like I said before, I think they're probably game planning, for Colorado.
Yeah.
And probably a little bit of Tennessee sprinkled in there. As far as putting a depth chart together, I'm going to see him Saturday. Well, I'm going to see him Friday. We've got a big alumni letter winners cookout, and we're going to go down and watch a little bit of practice and then have a cookout and talk with the players and stuff. Sure. But I think, the one thing you want to get out of spring one is no injuries. And then it gives you a little bit of better idea of who your players are going to be, and, whether it's the top 8, top 5 or whatever. And then and who meshes well together, and I've been hearing some great things about Mendoza, so we'll just see. I had a chance briefly to text the offensive line coach, Coach Moe, and he's excited. And watching them a couple of weeks ago, it's changed so much from when I came through there. It's gotten so, back when I played, Dave, we just used to come off the ball,
right?
And I was a little bit different. I kind of prided myself on trying to, do a momentum, try to get my guy to go one way, and that would help me out.
Yeah.
But today, I mean, the techniques that they use and everything's just, I think I would have been so much better offensive line if I would have played today with those techniques and stuff. So, so we're excited. I'm hearing great things. And, again, it all goes down to injuries. And hoping that everybody stays healthy, especially once we get out of spring practice and no knuckleheads do anything, wrong
right off the field,
which they have done before.
Oh yeah,
so,
it definitely happens.
But no, I think it's going to be an exciting time for us, and I'll get to learn a little bit more, this weekend. I'll be down there Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, there you go. Again, spring games going on this weekend. Hey, great lead-in, by the way, into Chuck Oliver, who's about 2 minutes out right here on the Sports Pig. WPGY, again, with, college sports, the king of college football, and with Southern Sports Today. John is holding up, for those on YouTube watching, the Sports Pig shirt. Man, he's got a T-shirt with a QR code. We're going to talk a little more about that. We're going to hopefully bring that to the people, because Big John is a man of the people. I love that shirt, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I love all my kids, but my daughter Olivia, who's getting ready to have her third boy.
Wow.
We can't wait for that. 3 boys, can you imagine? But I asked her, she's trying to help us out a little bit, and I said, you know what? I'm going down to Tech, and Dave and I are doing this radio show, and I said, give me some ideas that we can advertise. And she's like, hey, let's do a QR. So she did a QR code.
Yeah, right on the back of the shirt, man. Yeah.
So. And she says, well, I've got a great place that I can get shirts for you that your size, and they're good T-shirts. And I said, well, get them for me. They came in yesterday. Or Saturday, and so I'm going to be wearing it down and advertising.
I love it, man.
Pig,
I love it.
Weekend.
Doing it for the pig, baby. I love it right there. Again, John, thanks for being with us, man. We're out of time today. Bringing it always right here on a Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. Thanks for being with us, partner.
Take care.
All right. Again, that's going to wrap things up for this show. Chuck Oliver, as we said, is up next with Southern Sports Today. Again, the king of college football, breaking down spring practice a little further for you. Again, you can catch us on social media, The Sports Pig on Facebook. Our show, The Morning Rant, is on Instagram, also daily downloads on YouTube. And, of course, the podcast version of the show on sportspigradio.com and wherever you listen to your favorite daily podcast. We'll see you tomorrow morning right here on The Morning Rant.
98.1 and 93.7 The Sports Pig, where hot takes meet hot mics.